Hello, welcome to another episode of Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, the weekly intelligence wrap-up. I'm your host, Neil Bison, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the director of Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. Welcome to episode number 5. My apologies for last week's episode. I came down with a really nasty cold that's been going around the Ottawa area, and it pretty much kept me on the couch for a week. Not to mention I lost my voice, which makes it fairly impossible to do a podcast. But now that that's out of the way, we have plenty of news stories that we can cover this week. So for those of you who haven't turned in before, this is a podcast that focuses on national security and intelligence news stories and articles to deal with espionage, national security, and all things spy related. As a former intelligence officer, investigator, analyst, and law enforcement officer, I've had the fortune of working in the trenches of Canada's law enforcement and national security apparatus. As an intelligence officer, I worked alongside many of our Five Eye and non-traditional intelligence partners, and I can provide you, the listener, a unique insight into how international intelligence and national security issues affect your day-to-day life. So without further ado, let's get started in this week's stories. Today's first story focuses on a recent incident in Germany that has sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. 3 individuals have been arrested on charges of spying for China, highlighting the persistent threat of foreign espionage on German soil. According to the Federal Attorney General's office, the arrested individuals were accused of acquiring sensitive information on military technologies for the Chinese Ministry of State Security. Thomas R., acting as an agent of the MSS, obtained crucial data in Germany, leveraging the collaboration of Heurig F. and Inra F., who operated a business in Dusseldorf. The couple's company served as a front for making contact with German scientists and researchers, facilitating the acquisition of valuable research and technology. Their collaboration with a German university underscored the sophisticated nature of the espionage operation, with a focus on advancing Chinese military capabilities, especially in naval technology. What's particularly concerning is the unauthorized export of a special laser from Germany to China, a device subject to EU regulation on dual-use products. This blatant violation highlights the brazenness of foreign intelligence agencies in exploiting vulnerabilities in global supply chains. The discovery and thwarting of Chinese spies were made possible through the diligent investigation by the Federal Office of the Protection of the Constitution, or the BFV, Germany's internal intelligence agency. For more on the BFV and their operations, go to the www.globalintelligenceknowledgenetwork.com, and in the dossier files, you will find a breakdown of various international agencies and security agencies and their powers of operation. Sticking with espionage news coming out of Germany, we're diving into a recent news article that has caught the attention of intelligence analysts worldwide. The headline from the BBC reads, "Germany spying. Far-right party aide held in China spy probe." Prosecutors in Germany have made a significant arrest, raising concerns about foreign espionage within governmental circles. The individual in question is identified as Jian Ji and is suspected of spying for the Chinese government while working for a far-right politician. Allegations suggest that Jian Ji passed information about the European Parliament to Chinese intelligence and may have also been spying on Chinese opposition figures in Germany. The timing of these allegations is particularly noteworthy, as they come just ahead of this year's European Parliament elections. Mr. Maximilian Krah, the far-right politician employing Jian Ji, responded to the allegations, stating that if they were found to be true, Jian Ji's employment would be terminated immediately. Well, I'm glad to see that Mr. Krah is so concerned about the national security of the European Parliament that he's willing to fire his assistant, who might be a Chinese spy. Despite Mr. Krah's glib response to the allegations, the implications of espionage for a foreign state are grave. This is prompting the German officials to call for tough consequences if the accusations are proven true, and it more likely will be proven true. Interestingly, the arrests follow closely on the heels of another espionage case involving suspected Chinese spies obtaining information about military technology in Germany. While the two cases are not to be believed to be linked, they underscore the broader issue of foreign interference and espionage activities occurring in Germany. Given the continued issues that have been brought to light during the public inquiry into foreign interference in the 2019 and 2021 federal elections by China, as well as other foreign state actors, you cannot help but wonder how China's foreign interference knows no bounds. This is where the Canadian intelligence community has a great opportunity to work with Five Eyes foreign partners like Germany, non-Five Eyes foreign partners like Germany, to share valuable insights into how individuals with trusted access in the government are identified as potential foreign spies. We've seen this during the public inquiry that Judge Hogue has referenced the fact that much of the information that's being reviewed by certain members of the inquiry is highly classified. I know that if a foreign enemy state involved in foreign interference is able to get access to any of this type of information, it could be disastrous for the future of foreign interference national security investigations. Essentially, it places human and technical sources, their techniques and tactics of the Canadian intelligence community at risk, and leaves us all vulnerable to this type of national security threat. Further, it threatens the confidence and safety of the diaspora communities who have entrusted the Canadian Security Intelligence Service with their concerns and information at further risk of being exposed, isolated, and intimidated by the regimes of the country they fled to Canada from in the first place. The fact that a potential foreign spy could obtain the position of an aide within the German government is demonstrative of the way espionage works. Acquiring access to a position that is unlikely to be questioned from Germany's intelligence community, as this position is either considered vetted or the person is being seen as patriotic and beyond reproach. This is exactly the kind of intergovernmental positions that a foreign government would look to if they were trying to compromise and take full advantage of a foreign interference campaign or discredit a political party that the foreign government feels doesn't align with their goals and aspirations. I have a feeling that Western governments will continue to find Chinese spies within their ranks for the foreseeable future, as foreign interference is garnering well-deserved attention around the world and not just in Canadian politics. The next story deals with a form of transnational criminal activities used to circumvent sanctions against countries who would participate in the constructions of weapons of mass destruction and further jeopardize the geopolitical instability in the world stage. Two former employees of the International Civil Aviation Organization, a Montreal-based United Nations agency, have been charged with conspiring to illegally sell Chinese drones and other military equipment to Libya in violation of international sanctions. Fadi Ben Ahmed Mekorek, 61, and Mahmoud Mohammed El Suwayi Sayeh, 37, stand accused of leveraging their positions within the ICAO to facilitate these illegal activities. The charges laid under the United Nations Act and regulations highlight the gravity of the situation. Moaik has been arrested while Sayeh remains wanted with a warrant issued for his arrest. Interpol has also issued a special red notice for Sayeh's arrest pursuant to the RCMP warrant. The RCMP alleges that while employed by ICAO, the two men used foreign front companies to circumvent existing international sanctions, concealing their activities from scrutiny. The scale of the plans involved shipments of millions of barrels of oil and millions of dollars in potentially illicit gains. As a former border security officer with the Canadian Border Service Agency, this is not a new ploy. The sheer volume of goods and commodities entering and leaving Canada means that CBSA has a selective number of shipments that they can scrutinize, and unfortunately, anyone who has worked in the brokerage or shipping industry quickly learns that using front companies with just the right appearance of legitimacy is usually enough to keep you under the radar. When the focus is on collecting the proper amount of tax as opposed to investigating the legitimacy of every company or verifying the goods that are being exported, the bad guys have a better chance of winning than the good guys. In the case of the ICAO, serious concerns about security implications of the equipment involved, including drones large enough to carry weapons, caches, and payloads, was allegedly subject to UN sanctions against Libya, further exasperating the severity of the situation. In exchange for the drones, the ICAO was providing sanctioned Libyan oil to China. The RCMP's investigation and subsequent arrest were conducted under its Foreign Interference Prevention Policing Program, underscoring Canada's commitment to detecting and disrupting foreign interference attempts or activities taking place within its borders. This is yet another example of how criminal activity is exploited by foreign states to circumvent sanctions placed upon the United Nations. As many of us wonder how many countries that are placed with sanctions as punishments for their acts of war against innocent civilians are being circumvented each day. These sanctions are only as good as the enforcement teams entrusted in ensuring that they are upheld. But given the strain put on national policing and intelligence in Canada, it's easy to see how companies like the ICAO are being exploited without suspicion. We now turn our attention to a terrorist plot that was thwarted by the Australian domestic national security apparatus, the Australian Security and Intelligence Organization, or ASIO. Specifically, the recent anti-terror raids have resulted in the arrest of 7 teenagers. These arrests come in the wake of the stabbing of an Assyrian Orthodox bishop in Sydney, an incident that sent shockwaves through the community and prompted swift action from law enforcement agencies. Let's break down the key details of this incident. More than 400 police officers executed 13 warrants across Sydney, highlighting the scale and urgency of the operation. What's particularly alarming is that these suspects were aged between 15 and 17. They were deemed to be an immediate threat by intelligence officials, underscoring the evolving nature of the counterterrorism efforts. During my career as an intelligence officer, I worked on several high-profile cases that dealt with youth radicalization. Unfortunately, since that time, the advent of social media and the sharing of violent and hate-inspired propaganda has only increased and continues to be targeted toward younger and younger audiences. Many youth from different backgrounds can feel disenfranchised, and radicalizing groups prey on this type of emotion and disconnect to garner favor with youth. It's clear that the rise of youth radicalization is a pressing concern for authorities. I understand the complexities involved in identifying and mitigating such threats. The involvement of minors and extremist networks is a disturbing trend that demands a nuanced approach. The Deputy Commissioner, David Hudson's assertion that these individuals adhere to a religiously motivated, violent extremist ideology is a stark reminder of the insidious nature of radicalization. The fact that investigations have revealed a likelihood of further attacks underscores the gravity of the situation. What particularly troubling in this vulnerability of minors to online radicalization. ASIO Director General Michael Burgess rightly points out the role of social media content in exacerbating this phenomenon. As we reflect on these developments, it's crucial to recognize that collaborative efforts of law enforcement agencies in Australia, the Joint Counterterrorism Team, comprising federal and state police, ASIO, and New South Wales Crime Commission, exemplifies the importance of coordinated action in combating extremism. It can be difficult to reach out and discuss matters with youth and your family. Their constant use and connection to social media and online streaming of YouTube and TikTok is often seen as a distraction that they engage in, but it has real consequences when parents and relatives choose to ignore what can be dangerous behavior. Additionally, parents may be part of the problem if they don't take the time to discuss what their kids are viewing and uploading online. It's imperative that as a society, we try to remain vigilant and proactive in addressing this threat. It can't just be left up to the police and intelligence professionals to try to take care of this situation. Just like sextortion, ransomware, identity theft, and the plethora of other threats on the internet, radicalization is a real danger that could be affecting our kids. The recent arrests in Australia serve as a sobering reminder of the challenges we face in safeguarding against terrorism. Most people don't consider how easy it is for this national security risk to enter our lives, our homes, and our children's minds. But this is exactly what happened to the teenagers who were arrested in Australia. The terrorist organization groups and individuals are hoping that they can access your family without you even being aware that it's already happened. As a former intelligence professional, it was my duty to remain steadfastly committed to protecting the public and upholding the values of peace and security. But as a parent or a guardian, you can be part of the same commitment by ensuring that you have. Sticking with the counterterrorism issues, let's discuss the recent news article written by Stuart Bell in Global News. This article underscores the delicate balance between national security imperatives and legal constraints. An internal memo obtained by Global News revealed a troubling situation. The Canadian government's refusal to repatriate a woman from an ISIS detention camp due to the inability to arrest her upon her return to Canada. This woman, identified only by the initials FJ, has been deemed a national security risk by Public Safety Canada. Yet the RCMP lacks sufficient evidence to either charge her or impose restrictions on her movements with a peace bond. This revelation raises critical questions about the Canadian government's commitment to effectively deal with individuals who have participated in terrorist-related activities abroad. The decision not to repatriate FJ highlights a broader challenge faced by governments worldwide. How to address the complex issue of returning foreign fighters while ensuring national security and upholding legal principles. During my time as intelligence officer, I was deeply aware of the potential consequences of such decisions regarding repatriation of Canadian citizens who had traveled abroad to participate in terrorist-related activities, including training, fundraising, and violent acts of terrorism. The flip side of being fortunate enough to live in a country as wonderful as Canada is that there are those individuals who will use their citizenship and passport, which is highly accepted throughout the world, to engage in nefarious activities and rely on the Canadian government to extract them from any potential danger their poor decisions have placed them in. Abdul Rahman Khader was an example of such a person. He was arrested in Afghanistan for his participation in a bombing of an Indian embassy. His family confronted then Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, who advocated for his release from Indian custody. Khader went on to become one of the biggest financiers of al-Qaeda prior to the 9/11 attacks. However, getting back to the case of FJ, it underscores the need for a robust and comprehensive approach to counterterrorism that integrates intelligence gathering, law enforcement, legal frameworks, and international cooperation. It also underscores the importance of ongoing vigilance and proactive measures to prevent individuals from engaging in extremist activities and safeguarding the security of nations and citizens. Okay, let's switch here and take our attention to Russia, where the continued detention of an American journalist, Evan Gershkovich, has raised serious concerns. Let's delve into some of the key details of this troubling case. Evan Gershkovich, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, finds himself in the midst of a battle in Moscow's Lefortovo prison, where he has been held for over a year on espionage charges. Despite the vehement denials from the journalist, his newspaper, and U.S. authorities, his appeal against pre-trial detention has been rejected by a Moscow court. This lack of transparency surrounding Gershkovich's case is deeply troubling. With no trial date set and scant public detail provided by Russian authorities, questions loom large regarding the legitimacy of the charges against him. His detention, extended until June 30th, adds to the uncertainty surrounding his fate. Shortly after he was arrested, I had written an article that you can read on the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network website entitled, "Is Journalism a Good Cover for Spying?" where I pointed out, much like the case of Daniel Pearl, it's typically the group who either incarcerates and, or in the case of Pearl, attacks and kills a journalist that makes unsubstantiated accusations of them being a spy. Gershkovich's plight as the first Western journalist arrested on spying charges in Russia since the Soviet era is a stark reminder of the challenges facing journalists working in hostile environments. The implications of this case extend far beyond the realm of journalism, touching upon broader issues of press freedom and diplomatic relations. Amidst the diplomatic maneuvering surrounding his detention, Russian President Vladimir Putin's suggestion of a potential prisoner exchange raises further intrigue. The murky nature of these discussions underscores the complexity and the dynamics at play, with both sides navigating delicate diplomatic waters. It's crucial to view Gershkovich's case within the broader context of the U.S.-Russia relations. Washington's accusations of Moscow using U.S. citizens as bargaining chips highlights the fraught nature of bilateral ties, with human lives often caught in the crossfire of geopolitical tension. As we reflect on the parallels between Gershkovich's case and past incidents of journalist arrests, such as Nicholas Danilov affair of 1986, it becomes evident that history often repeats itself in the realm of international espionage and diplomatic brinkmanship. In conclusion, the continued detention of Evan Gershkovich serves as a poignant reminder of the challenges facing journalists operating in authoritarian regimes and the imperative in upholding press freedom as a fundamental pillar of democracy. Well, that'll wrap up another episode of Global Intelligence Knowledge Network Weekly Intelligence Wrap-Up. If you like this content, please leave a like, a comment, a share, and send to others. In addition to this podcast, I also do a weekly podcast with two former colleagues and intelligence professionals, Al Tredenik and Phil Gursky, entitled Spies Like Us, where we discuss all sorts of national security and spy issues. It's like sitting in a bar where three former spies talk tradecraft. And also, don't forget to check out the awesome content at www.globalintelligenceknowledgenetwork.com and my YouTube channel, where I have videos on everything from cryptocurrency and terrorism to how to use sensational situational awareness, just like the real spies do. So until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.